Tell me why.
Welcome back to another edition of Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers. Yes, the season is done. Yes, it ended in a very disappointing way. Yes, that meant Ben and I needed to take a break from this, or that last episode could have been really ranty and ugly, and we would have got stuck on all that stuff. We've mourned on it. We've moved on. We got some other things to talk about, including where the Packers go from here and some more recent developments that you might be interested in and should be interested in if you're a true Packers fan, and at least has been alive long enough to see the 90s teams that had Leroy Butler on them. So we're going to talk about that too. All right, welcome Ben in. Ben, how are we doing today? Okay. All right. All right. I mean, I didn't expect you to be Leroy Butler, jolly person, but maybe you could be a little more. Give us a little more or something here.
I can't. There's nothing good, man. Everything's bad.
Oh, come on now. There's some cool stuff. I'm going to point this out real quick. There's some cool stuff recently on the Packers website. They're doing some alumni spotlights and stuff. There's a cool interview with Keith McKenzie on there. And Keith McKenzie,
I just watched Aaron Campman.
One of our favorites. Aaron Campman, who amazingly talked about his story and told me two things I did not realize about his time with the Packers, which was both of the teams that he felt were the best teams that he was on in 2004. Was it 2003 or 2004? Whatever year they lost. Three. And then 2007. Both of those times, his chance at a Super Bowl and those teams' chances at Super Bowls were derailed by Brett Favre throwing an interception.
That's not a surprise.
Well, I just didn't I mean, I'm not surprised Favre threw an interception, but I didn't realize that those two teams that he thought were the two best teams he was on, that's the reason they both ended up losing in the playoffs. Because one was against Philadelphia, and he even talks about it. He's like, well, we won the coin toss in overtime. We felt we had a good chance, and then for some reason on first or second down, Favre chucks it up for a fair catch ball for a defensive back, and we have a pick, and then they come over and kick a field goal, and the game's over. And then, of course, we know
that's not what he said.
Well, that's
you
what
paraphrased that a little bit different than what he said.
Yeah, but that's the reality of what that's what he wanted to say.
Yeah, I know. He said we had a turnover, and then we couldn't stop them, then they kicked the field goal.
All right, fine. But that's the truth.
He was nicer than that.
But that's the truth. I say the truth on here. We don't say what Aaron Campman, his flowery version of it. We say the truth. And then, of course, we know how 2007 ended, where Favre just decided he was going to throw to Donald Driver no matter what, and gave the Giants some good. Gave the Giants some good field position, and that was the end of that. So,
first play of overtime. Yeah, good old Favre.
But now everybody loves Favre.
I don't want to. Are you trying to make me more mad? Like, what is your deal, dude? I'm still. It's been over 2 weeks. I'm still mad about the stupid 49er game.
I know.
I'm pissed about Leroy Butler getting screwed.
It does.
I'm
suck.
mad because Bill Cowher, for some unknown reason, is in the Hall of Fame when he got handed a Super Bowl win when he didn't deserve it, and now he's in the Hall of Fame before Mike Holmgren is. What is going on?
I know. We got some fun games we're going to play,
too. This world is a bunch of crap, dude. That's all I'm going to say. The Packers are getting screwed.
The Packers
and
are.
Willie Wood passed away.
Yeah, there's been
Vernon, Willie Wood.
That really sucks. There's been a lot of Packer greats kind of passing away in the last couple of years. It's really sucked. I mean, I get a lot of those guys are getting to that age, but I mean, Bart Starr, you got Willie Wood, you got a number of guys out there that are unfortunately.
Forrest Gregg, Gregg was this year too.
Right.
It's 2019.
It sucks. And granted, we're not old enough to have seen those guys play, but because the Packers are so good at keeping those former players kind of attached to the organization and allowing them to come out for games and all that stuff, you get to know them a little bit. And it's just a bummer. It's just a bummer on a lot of those things. But you're right. There's lots of stuff that's been kind of not great the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry. I watched the interview today and it brought those things to my mind. I'm just letting it out of my mind. That's all. Sorry. So we'll move on from that. We do have some fun games we're going to play. Like Ben and I are going to play a couple of fun games about the Packers free agents, whether, keep them or ship them. There's a big list of them. We got all that to look at. And then Ben has a fun game that he wanted to come up with about some of the Hall of Fame stuff. And, it should be eye-opening, and we'll give you our takes on all that stuff. And then we'll also learn some things together. How's that? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about the 49er game or no? I know it's been 2 weeks, but are you just going to let it go, or does it make the difference anymore?
The one thing I have to say about it, that the part that still I just don't understand, and this is what, when you watch the Super Bowl, okay, when you watch the Super Bowl, you saw it. You saw that all the Packers needed to do was make the 49ers have to throw. So I don't care what defense you need to call. Commit 10 guys to the run and just have one safety deep. I don't care. But you needed to force them to throw the ball, because Jimmy Garoppolo is going to throw you the ball, or he's going to throw it like crap sometimes. And he's not good at handling pressure. He's the guy that you needed to put the game in his hands. And I don't give a crap what your defensive strategy was, but you needed to come up with one. If you're a professional defensive coordinator, you need to come up with a strategy when your guys are getting their butts whipped on the line of scrimmage to stop the run. It can't just be, well, do it better, guys. Now they'll magically be better. Wait, they're getting their ass kicked the whole game. No, they're not. And those are some part of the free agent thing, is the Packers have some areas they need to improve on. One of them is definitely the defensive line. But that just had to be done. Like, I wanted to see that commitment from Mike Pettin to stop the run. And the other thing was, the Packers were getting so screwed up on all of the motions because they're in man coverage all those times, right? So the motion and this and that are like running guys across the field and they're out of position. If they would have just sat back and played zone, and I'm not a zone proponent. I've said this before. I don't like zone defense most of the time. But when a team's doing that to you in the running game, if you're playing zone, then your guys are stationary. They're not moving around with all that motion. They don't care that much about all that motion because they have an area of the field that's their responsibility in the pass. And then if it's a running play, they're not out of position because they're in the spot that they're supposed to be in. They're not chasing a guy that's running across the formation and dealing with all that crap. So that's my big beef about the game, mostly, that sticks with me. And then the Super Bowl just rubbed it in because you saw Garoppolo show who he is, that he's really not that good of a quarterback like you think he is, and he will screw up if you make him throw it. And that's what I'm still burned about, but that's me.
There's a couple of other problems in that game. They attacked Savage. Savage was obviously told that he needs to cover Kittle. So there's a bunch of plays. Speaking of Leroy Butler, if you watch Leroy Butler's X's and O's after that NFC Championship game, he shows 3 plays where Savage is just, all he's looking at is Kittle. And Kittle is blocking somebody else. And Savage just kind of stands there waiting for him to come out at a pass pattern because he's worried that he's going to, fake block and then sneak out. Except Kittle just keeps blocking. And it pretty much takes Savage out of the play. And all 3 of them are huge runs that he's just standing there doing nothing. Like nobody's blocking him. He's not doing anything but looking at Kittle the whole time. And the run's going right past him. The thing that scares me is, I don't know if you saw this, Larry Smith was interviewed on Chris Sims' Unbuttoned podcast with Mike Florio, whatever, those guys, PFT, whatever the heck they do.
Yeah, I did see it, yeah.
And he said, Larry Smith said that he wasn't ready. That he wasn't, the energy wasn't there. That he didn't have the energy there, which is what LaFleur said after the game. And I'm like, how in the crap do these guys not have the energy there in the NFC Championship game?
They've never been there before, man. That's part of it.
Well, neither were the 49ers.
I get it.
Neither were the 49ers.
Well, some of them.
And not only that,
a good chunk of them, man.
Aaron Jones was also interviewed by Chris Sims, and they asked, and it was the day after, and they told Aaron Jones, they're like, that Zadarius Smith said you guys just weren't up for the game. And Aaron Jones was like, well, I don't know about that. I was up for the game.
Yeah.
I was ready to go. And he was. Aaron Jones was the only guy, including Aaron Rodgers, who was not, Aaron Rodgers was not up for that game. And he played like crap. on many, many levels. Remember that play against the 49ers, and I pointed out, and we did a whole thing, a video thing about it, where Devontae saw the blitz coming, and he tried to point it out to Rodgers, and Rodgers didn't see it. There was a three-man route on the with three receivers on the right side, and then Jimmy Graham and a running back on the other side. And Rodgers didn't see the blitz, and it came, and he fumbled, and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact formation in the NFC Championship game. Same exact formation on 3rd down and 9. Rodgers never once looked over there, number one. Number two, they had max protection on that play. Max protection, Jason.
Man, I don't want to hash up all
only
this
sent
stuff.
6 guys. No, I'm just one last thing.
All right, okay.
Rodgers never once looked over there for the blitz. And here's the dumbest part. Jimmy Graham and Jamal Williams stay in the block. And Rodgers doesn't look over to the side of the 3 wide receivers are on, and they're the only ones that are out in a pattern. What? Number 2, Billy Turner decided that there was 3 guys he could have blocked in that play. He decided to block none of them.
Yep.
None of them, which then, of course, caused Rodgers to fumble. And then guess who fell on the ball? Billy Turner, because he didn't block anybody, so he was able to go and get the fallen ball.
He did that twice.
But the other problem was this. Yeah. The other problem was this. On that same play, 3rd and 9, with only 3 people out in the route, there were 3 wide receivers. 2 of the 3 ran go routes, and the other one ran an 8-yard in route into the middle of the defense where the 49ers have the linebacker sitting there. When they blitzed the corner, and there's a big wide open hole where somebody could have just did a quick out and would have been caught and first down. So I blame play calling because, first of all, 3rd and 9, you have a 3-man route and 2 guys do go routes and 1 guy does a freaking 8-yard in route. Your max protection, nobody knew what the heck they were doing. Billy Turner didn't block anybody. And then Rodgers didn't see the blitz and didn't adjust to it. That was a terrible, terrible game. And then when he fumbled up from center and he just kind of stood there like Cam Newton did in the Super Bowl. Ball on the ball. Ball on the ball, Rodgers. I don't care. You think you're going to get hurt? I don't care. You make $30-some million a year. You make $30-some million a year. You're 25% of the cap for the Packers or whatever. Get your butt out there and do something. If you're going to take up all that cap space, make sure you play like the man or get the heck out. Rodgers is slowly becoming my least favorite Packer.
Oh, boy.
And I never thought I would say that.
Man, okay. Well,
but I am sick. I would rather, you know what? I would rather have Brett Favre throwing 6 interceptions than Aaron Rodgers standing there and not giving a crap. At least Favre gave a crap.
Yeah, but remember how many times Favre ran away from contact too, didn't try to tackle guys that made picks on him and pick sixes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
I
know.
So, I mean, look, here's the thing I want to say about that. People are hammering Rodgers about it. I get it. The thing is, though, okay, when was the last time he fumbled a snap from center? Right? When was the last time a center snap was exchanged?
Don't you blame Corey Linsley. Don't blame Corey Linsley on that.
I'm not.
That ball hit Rodgers right in the hand.
I'm not. What I'm trying to say...
Well, you would like to blame Corey Linsley.
No. Well, when the blame should be on him, yes, but this is not the case. What I'm saying is the reaction to it is, yes, it looked bad, but when that never happens to you, it's like, it was just like us sitting at home. Like you were like, what happened? How did that happen?
Really? So you're telling me it's just like when Brett Favre throws an interception back in the day and he couldn't believe that he threw the interception, so that's why he just stood there and watched the guy run back for a touchdown?
That is what Favre said.
Rodgers couldn't believe he fumbled. He didn't get the snap, so he just stood there like a douche and because he couldn't believe it? No.
What I'm telling you, that's natural human stuff.
He gave up, dude.
I don't think so. I look at it, I think it was just that. But anyway, regardless of that, yes, I wanted to see him go after the ball, even if his hand got stepped on and destroyed and broken and then he was out of the game. I still want to see the effort there. But
before that happened, dude, Aaron Jones was running all over.
They were doing great. That was a huge turning point in the game, and it just sucked that it was on.
And then when they threw that pick at the end of the first
play
half,
like that. Yeah, but
that was another pick where it looked really stupid, like he was just throwing right to the guy. But
Yeah.
the real problem was actually Geronimo Allison didn't sit down in the zone. He sprinted up the seam.
Yeah, they have too
And
many.
the hole was there. If he would have slowed down and sat in the zone, he would have caught that ball. He never turned around. He was running like 1,000 miles an hour. And if he would have just stopped and turned around,
He felt
he would have
fast.
caught it.
He felt fast for a change, so he was like, "I'm gonna." Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be fast running out the dang door, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, yes, I agree. But you and I have talked about this before, and I've told a number of people this. There is far too much thinking in today's football. There's far too much option routes, route adjustments based on the coverage, all this sort of stuff. And for me, that's my, like, I am a big fan of Rodgers, but that is my biggest issue with him, is that I think he overthinks it. I think they make football too complicated. And you know how I think that? And this is why. Because how many times do I say, run the plays that work? Like, everybody has certain plays that pretty much everybody runs, and they almost work all the time, right? For example, in the Super Bowl, do you know how the Chiefs scored their last 2 touchdowns on the exact same play? The exact same play. All it was play action, tight end, lined up tight on the right, fake block, get out deep, a little deeper in the flat, so probably about 5-7 yards downfield, and then run the running back to the flat, and then you either throw to the tight end or you throw to the running back. And the very first time, Travis Kelce snuck behind everybody. Linebacker Warner didn't get over there. He was wide open. He got the touchdown. Then the next time when they wanted to score a touchdown, they ran the same exact play. The defense went with Kelce. The running back was open. So you throw to him, and he gets the touchdown. And that is a simple play that works. And you see these plays from the Packers that aren't plays that work. Like, where are the plays that work when you need them? You know, when you need a 3rd and 4 conversion or a 3rd and 5 or whatever. Like, there are plays or goal line situations like that, like 2nd and goal, 1st and goal. If you tried running, it didn't work, whatever. Those are just plays that work. And the Packers don't run them enough. And then but instead, they have all these passing plays that are like, okay, receiver and quarterback, if the defensive back does this, then you're going to adjust your route to this, and the quarterback's going to throw it here at this time. But if he does this, then keep running this way, and then you'll throw over there. There's too many variables. Like, you need to tell these guys, this is the play. Run this route. The quarterback then decides that route's not open. Give me another option to throw to on that play in the play design. Don't give me all these option routes where you're adjusting to the defense. Give me options in the play design. If those other options aren't open, I throw to my short option or I throw to this option because the defense took that away. So those things, I will hammer on this for the rest of my life. It's been so much more in football for the last couple of years. It's too many variables, too many people thinking, too much thinking, not enough just running, doing what you're supposed to do and running the play the way it was originally designed to be, regardless of what the defense does.
The biggest difference is this. You and I both know, okay? If the Packers would have scored some points, if the Packers would have turned the ball over on offense, then they would have had the lead, and that's what their defense is good at, is having the lead, putting pressure on the quarterback, defense playing man coverage or zone coverage in the back, whatever. And the fact that the offense didn't get off to a good start, turned the ball over a bunch, it kind of just put Pettine's defense in a bind. And what are you going to do? The players he has are there for pass rush and pass protection. They're not there for run defense. Name one guy on the Packers defense who's known as a run stopper right now. None. There isn't any. Not even Kenny Clark is known as a run stopper.
The only guys they'll say are run stoppers are the defensive linemen that play that aren't good pass rushers.
Right, but that's not because they're good run stoppers. It's because they're bad pass rushers. Because, Dean Lowry is not a run stopper.
No, he's not.
Lancaster can do it, but he's not like a superstar or anything, or he's not like going to, one guy. If there's only one guy who can stop the run, who can't get past a single block, even a single block, then you're in trouble. Or a chip block. A guy chips and then moves to the next level on Martinez, boom. He chips him out of the play, knocks him over. Like, these guys don't have a good base. They don't start with a good base against the run. Like, I mean, as much as it's weird, like Mike Daniels, even though he was getting old, he was smart. He used his body well. He understood wrestling. He understood leverage. He would not get moved off the spot. And that's why he was so good against the run.
Ultimately, I gotta say, I mean,
I don't know.
I want to get into, you're talking about a lot of things I want to get into. And we're focusing a lot more on this last game than I thought we would, but ultimately I have to say it. The decision they made, and even though he was hurt for a while this year, the decision they made to part ways with Mike Daniels, and even at a point where it didn't save them any cap room this year,
not at all.
Was the wrong one. It was the wrong one, because they would have been better against the run in that game with Mike Daniels than with what they have.
The thing was, they knew that Mike Daniels. See, that's the thing. When they let him go, it was everybody was under the impression that they let him go because he wasn't going to be a starter anymore, right? That Dean Lowry and somebody else was going to be starting at defensive end or whatever, and then Mike Daniels would not be part of that starting 3 defensive linemen or even 2 defensive linemen. But Kiki didn't do anything, hardly. They didn't play him much. Martavius Adams didn't play hardly at all. The only guy who played was Lancaster. And they didn't even rotate.
Right.
Kenny Clark played more snaps than any other defensive lineman in the league.
Yep.
Like, what the heck?
They're way too thin.
So letting Daniels go did absolutely nothing, absolutely nothing for the team other than give you a gaping hole that you couldn't fill.
It allowed you
in the middle of the defense.
Right. It allowed you to keep one more player in some other position because you couldn't make a decision there or whatever, but it didn't. It weakened your defensive line. Even if he wasn't going to start, to have him rotating in would have been a huge boost for this defensive line, because that was ultimately what the difference was. That was ultimately what killed them in the end, and why they're like, the Chiefs are not that much more physical than the Packers, okay? But the Chiefs didn't get pushed around as much because they had a good defensive line rotation. The Packers had no rotation, and I've said this before. Kenny Clark is a very good player, but Kenny Clark, after 50 or 60 snaps, is not as good as he can be. And Dean Lowry is a guy, yes, he can be productive as long as he's at max energy. But once he's like a 35 snaps kind of guy. 35, maybe 40. Dean Lowry playing 60, 70 snaps is not good for your team. Same thing with Lancaster. And when you don't have the bodies to bring in, and there's not much drop-off so you can keep that rotation going, keep those guys fresh, especially those big guys, that's what happens. They get pushed around, shoved around, and they just get blasted out of the gap, and there's big holes everywhere. That's what happens. So the Kenny Clark you saw in the game, and they're talking about signing him back, and he's going to get a lot of money, that's not the Kenny Clark that he can be if he has proper substitutions. But that's the Kenny Clark you're going to get playing 80 snaps in a game. Those big guys, you got to have a good rotation. You remember some of the Packers' best years, and even in 2010, they had a great defensive line rotation. It wasn't about certain players being superstars. It was about a bunch of good guys that they could rotate in, keep fresh, and they all had their place on the team. And they all played the certain amount of snaps that made sense for them. Like Ryan Pickett wasn't a dominant force, but Ryan Pickett for 35, 40 snaps was great. And then Cullen Jenkins, if he could get a rest, he was awesome because he was more gifted and more physical and strong. But if he had to play every single snap, he's worn down. So that's a big area they got to improve on this offseason. Defensive line depth. And the draft has not done it. Montravius Adams was a 3rd-round pick, and that guy was a bad pick. And there have been a lot of bad picks in recent years. And one of our future episodes, maybe the one after this, unless we go too far, is going to be an examination of the Packers' last 4 or 5 drafts, and we'll examine those picks. And Montravius Adams will be one of those that we'll talk about, because he is not what you expect from a 3rd-round pick a couple years in. That guy has to be an important rotational player at minimum, and he is not that.
All right, what do you want to do? You want to do
That's the biggest
free
takeaway.
agency?
That was exposed from the game, is that the D-line depth is a major issue. Major issue.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Packers free agents. I want to do that now. One of the things we wanted to talk about was the Packers have a number of free agents, some unrestricted, one restricted free agent that I don't even know who he is, and a couple of some exclusive. Yeah, he's a fullback, but whatever. And exclusive rights free agents. Okay.
Who they all need to keep every one of those guys.
We'll see. All right. So here are some of the things. Let's play a game, Ben. Let's go through the list.
All right.
And we'll try to keep it short because we got a number of guys to get through, but we want to give some reasoning. Unless you really don't feel like it. If you feel it's self-explanatory, you can just say ship them or keep them. And if I have a question, I'll ask you, why do you say that? All right. Top of the list, Brian Bulaga.
Get him out of here.
All right. Then
Pat him on the back, say, see you later, pal. Pick up somebody off the street.
Now,
anybody can be as good as Bulaga. Just let him go. For the money he's going to want, nope. You know that Bulaga is only 30 years old?
I know he is. He's only 30, but he's...
A guy that's been injured as much as he has, it seemed like he was 50 years old.
Now, the sad thing is...
he's only 30 years old.
He might have just had his best season. If it's not his best, it's up there. It's close to his best. But...
Okay, well, Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram,
yeah.
or whatever their names, they made him look like a chump.
Well, Melvin Gordon would also make him look like a chump, but yeah.
It doesn't matter. And then that first 49ers game when he decided to tap out after like 7 snaps or whatever, and he's like, oh, I can't block this guy. I'm hurt. Somebody else come in. Nah. No. Okay. Goodbye.
Okay.
Save your money for something else.
I mean, the ultimate thing, and there's been talk about this, that they might be able to hopefully talk Jared Valdir into coming back on a 1-year contract, so staying unretired. And at least that gives you a veteran, solid guy if you can't draft somebody that's good or pick up somebody else that's really good. And I would be okay with that.
He's on this list here.
No, he's not.
You jumped the gun. Yeah,
oh, he is? Oh, all right.
He's
Did I miss
unrestricted free agent.
He is.
No, he's down near the bottom.
Oh, dang it. Okay, never mind. Sorry about that. All right. I'm sorry. Okay.
Now he's 32 years old.
We'll talk about him. Yeah.
But he plays much better. Well, let's just go to him right now.
All right,
I think they should sign him back.
I would.
For like a 1-year or a 2-year deal. He's 32. He's a savvy veteran. He's just as good as Bulaga, in my opinion, if not better. And I would like to see him start. He played great in the NFC Championship, or the first playoff game. When Bulaga got sick, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, go in there and play. And then he went in there and played great. So, yeah, I'll take him. I mean, he doesn't have to be a superstar.
Right.
But, let's take him. Because you're not going to get a tackle at pick 32 or pick number 30 in the draft.
Right.
They're not going to get a good tackle. So the draft is not an option at this point for getting the right tackle. And Billy Turner is not an option either because he can't block anybody.
No. Like I would say their other option was what? Plug Lucas Patrick in at right guard, which I was calling for most of the year, and then shifting Turner out to tackle. No. Turner should just not play. I understand they committed a lot of money to him, so you want to have him as a backup, keep him on the roster, okay, but I would have much rather seen Lucas Patrick in there against the 49ers, against anybody, because that guy blocks for 1 second and then he just stands around. So it makes me crazy. All right. I'll
say this too. Hey, I'll say this.
If
Valdir and Bulaga wanted the same amount of money, I would still give it to Valdir over Bulaga. I would too. I would too. I mean, you know who Bulaga reminds me of? He's like the offensive line version of Nick Perry.
Oh, yeah.
A guy who gets hurt, a guy who's not that great. And as soon as he's on the free agent market, he thinks he's going to make some money, and no one's going to want him. I guarantee it. Or if wherever he goes, he'll get signed, and then he'll just get hurt and not play. Or I don't know. What else? Maybe. All right, he's better than that. He's better than Nick Perry. I can't say that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's not worth any money. He's not worth it. Let him go. I don't care. Bye.
He's also not worth us talking about him anymore. Next guy is Blake Martinez.
This one hurts. Blake Martinez is a great guy. this is what I would do with Martinez. I would let him test the free agent market, see what's out there for him if somebody's willing to give him a bunch of money. Okay. The other problem, though, however, is I don't believe, since we're talking about inside linebacker, another guy on this list is Goodson. I don't believe Goodson is the answer either. And other than that, you have nobody. And unless you can draft a guy to be your fixture in your defensive quarterback of the defense, you almost have to sign Martinez back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What I want to see is a speed upgrade and some kind of a playmaker upgrade at that position, because they don't have that at all, even with Martinez there. But they also, if he does go, they have a huge hole because they have absolutely nobody other than Owen Burks, who has proven that he is a another third round pick who's done nothing.
Yeah. And
so
a guy they don't even trust. I mean, how does that guy you drafted to be your speed linebacker, and he doesn't even get on the field ever? I mean, I don't know what goes on. I don't know what the problem is with Burks. He seems like a smart guy. I have no idea what they're seeing or not, but holy crap, that dude can't even get on the field on defense. I don't get it. Especially, you just got your butts run all over by the 49ers and you didn't throw him in there once? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that tells you, but that tells you the Packers don't think much of him at all, and they wasted a third-round pick on the guy. So you are correct. This is my argument for Blake Martinez. I agree that you can't unload a bunch of money on him. So if someone wants to pay him a bunch of money, sorry, you got to let him go. But if you can get him for a reasonable price, he's very valuable because, one, he knows the defense. He's reliable. You don't have to worry about the injuries with him. Like, he is a durable, reliable player, and he's a good tackler. He just set the franchise record with 203 tackles for the year. Now, this was the other point I was looking at. I was like, okay, could you get somebody in the draft? And maybe you could, but could you get somebody in the draft that was going to be an upgrade speed-wise and also have that type of production? And so what I did was I looked at some of those highly touted linebackers from last year's draft. Okay, Devin Bush, and some of these guys that got picked really high, inside linebackers, and it was because, they were going to be that speed guy that could be 3-down linebacker, cover, tackle like crazy. Do you know how many tackles Devin Bush had last year?
Nope.
109. Almost about half of what Blake Martinez had. And I looked, he played in all 16 games. He must have been on the field a lot, but he had about half as many tackles as Blake Martinez. Now, that might tell you Blake Martinez was probably involved in too many tackles for the times he was out there because enough other guys weren't making the tackles or the plays. But it also tells you that there's no guarantee by drafting some guy in the high, or even if they could trade up and get an inside linebacker that's supposed to be this great athlete, that they're going to be any better. With Martinez, you know what you have, and he's a durable guy that's not sitting out with injuries, because a lot of these young speed guys too, they get in there and they miss 5 games. They miss 2, 3, 4 games a year because of injuries and stuff. And if that happens during the playoffs and they're out, your defense looks dramatically different. That's my argument for Martinez, but again, I don't want to break the bank on him either. You can't. Okay, Tramon Williams. What do we do with Tramon?
I would still sign him back because he's Tramon. I like him too much. I don't care how much money, he doesn't want that much, I'm assuming, because he hardly ever. Okay, he played 761 snaps this year.
He played a lot.
That's a lot of snaps. That's a lot of snaps.
And he had to tackle far more than he probably ever wanted to as well, but he did.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think he's a great leader. I think there still needs to be a guy in that room that's a leader, and I don't see anybody else doing that. Amos is just too quiet, and the other guys are still too young. So I would still bring him back for a year if he'll come back, because I think he's good. I think he's still a decent player.
Okay, but the argument against Tramon is, what if you're keeping Tramon because you're signing him back, then what are some of the young guys that you could have developing into an important role that then you're holding back? Like Josh Jackson didn't even see the field hardly at all this year. Kendar Holdman.
Maybe there's a reason.
I know. Well, I know.
There's a reason.
But part of that reason is you've got Tramon Williams on the roster. If you take away that experienced cornerback, yes, I understand the leadership part of it, and maybe the leadership is going to have to come from elsewhere, or other guys are going to have to step into those roles. But that Holman kid, who they really liked his size and a lot that he brought to the table, but then he didn't even see the field either. And then Josh Jackson, who they spent a second-round pick on, barely played. So you've got to see what you have in him. You have to. Can he play cornerback in this league, in this system? Can he do it? I mean, that's kind of the argument against Tramon, even though, again, he has so many intangibles. I love the guy. I'd love to see him go out with a Super Bowl with the Packers. And I think he does a lot for all those young cornerbacks, keeping them in check, keeping them grounded. Mason Crosby, what do you do with him?
I guess sign him back. I don't know.
You got to keep him, man.
You got to, because you know what? These other guys, you get these kickers, and all these other teams, they can't even make extra points half the time.
I know.
I mean, at least Crosby can kick in the wind, kick in Lambeau in the cold. He can. I mean, his ball always looks really weird, but goes in sometimes. Most of the time, 80-some%, right? So,
yep.
I guess you sign him back. Guys can kick till they're 40-something years old. He's 35 or whatever. It's fine.
You'd like to see him take a little bit of a discount and not demand top dollar for a kicker, but I think you got to have him because you don't know. Yeah, you really don't know what you're going to get. We're still working on the punter thing, right? I mean, how long has it been since we had a consistent punter? To find those specialists, it can take even longer than some of these other positions. It's just crazy. All right, Mercedes Lewis.
I would sign him back because he's an integral part of the blocking unit. Aaron Rodgers loves him. That'll keep Aaron Rodgers happy. Just sign him back for a 1-year deal again.
Yeah, if you'll take it, I'm all for that too. 1-year deal for Mercedes. As you cut ties with Jimmy Graham, and that can be your one veteran.
Gotta cut ties with Jimmy Graham.
That would be your veteran leader on the tight end group, and then you start to let Tanyan and Jace Sternberger really start to play a lot of snaps. Like, they got to be the guys at tight end most of the time next year.
Yes.
Okay.
They need to be.
Kyler Fackrell.
Just let him go. Number one, if Gary is going to be something, he's got to be on the field. So by letting Fackrell go, that'll force Pettine to play Gary, and therefore he's going to have to develop one way or another.
Side note on Gary, he barely saw the field in that NFC Championship game as well, and that is the number 12 pick from last year's draft. That's for our draft version. We're going to go through that more in depth, but man, that says a lot there too. Okay, what about Will Redmond?
Let him go.
Yeah,
I saw him make too many mistakes when he was playing on defense. He took bad angles. He wasn't covering the greatest, and he had a couple of special teams mistakes throughout the year. I don't think he's a good enough player. I think there are other guys that they can get on the team and have more playing time that are better, and they'll probably draft a guy or sign a couple rookie free agents this year off of teams that are just better players. So let him go.
All right, B.J. Goodson.
I said it before. I let him go. He's not dynamic enough. Maybe he's a good tackler, but it doesn't matter if he can't get there to make a tackle. Even if they lose Martinez, I don't think they should sign him back. Just find something else.
The way I look at him too is you have to look, okay, is he better than Ty Summers or not really?
No.
And if he's not, you got Ty Summers as a 7th-round pick on his salary for the next 3 years. Let him play some linebacker. Just do it. Let him learn.
He's fast.
Yep.
Maybe he takes bad angles, but you know what? He's fast and he attacks.
Yep.
That's what he showed in preseason.
Right.
Like, I would like to see him play.
Mm-hmm.
He might be the answer at middle linebacker. Who knows?
Maybe. And maybe the Packers are forced to do that. Maybe Martinez gets a big offer somewhere and they have to let him go. There's nobody good in the draft. They fill with some depth at linebacker, but nobody that's really special. And Ty Summers steps up. He's got plenty of speed, and so maybe he makes a big jump from before the second year, and maybe he's your starting middle linebacker. I don't know.
He played quarterback, so he could be a good quarterback in the defense. He was a quarterback on offense,
right?
So hey,
smart guy. He's got a good attitude and he's got good speed. So hey, that might be the option. Okay, this guy's interesting. Ibrahim Campbell.
I think they should bring him back because he didn't play much this year because he got hurt and all that. But when he's in the game, he usually makes plays. I know it's tough because they also have Raven Green, and they've also got Savage and Amos, who are the starters, but it all depends on Raven Green's health. Let's put it that way.
I liked Campbell better as a depth safety. Like, I liked him better playing safety last year when they didn't have the safeties to play than being in that linebacker hybrid safety position, because I don't think he's physical enough for that.
Right. I think I'm better back there, too.
So if you're keeping him for that position, I wouldn't keep him. If you're keeping him for more depth at safety because you don't want to try to find another safety to back up Amos and Savage, then okay. Then I'd sign him if you can. Danny Vitale.
I hate to say it because you're going to be mad, and Eckes will be mad, but let him go. If you're not going to use the guy, They didn't use him all year. All we heard about was Danny Vitale. Oh, he's like a physical freak of nature. He can make all the plays. He can run real fast. He can block. He can catch. He can do all these things. And then all season they did nothing with him. So if you're not going to play him, why sign him? Let him go somewhere else, and he'll probably be used properly. So that's my opinion. I'm mad because he wasn't used when they promised us over and over again. LaFleur would be like, oh, yeah, we're going to get Danny Vitale the ball. No, you didn't. You never did. You never did. Not once. So let him go. You're not going to use him anyways.
100% agree. 100%. And for the exact same reasons. The other thing is, if you're going, like they use Jay Sternberger in that fullback role quite a bit down the stretch, if that means Sternberger gets on the field more, fine. Good.
Yeah.
You might as well use him and let Vitale see what he can do elsewhere. Because, yeah, I like him too, and I think someone else will use him. Okay, we already talked about Valdir. What about Tyler Irvin? Kind of another one of those guys they picked up off the scrap heap, and he was valuable.
Sign him back. Sign him back. We cannot have -1 return yards after 10 games in the year next year. So at least this guy could be your return guy again.
Now, he had a gaffe in the NFC Championship game where like the ball, he didn't catch it, bounced off his face mask and stuff. That game that stuff happened. Stupid things happen, and unfortunately. But he was very valuable, and they started to use him in the offense, which I also thought was good from running those jet sweeps. And he can be a backup running back too. So he's a super valuable guy, and if you should be able to get him pretty cheap. So definitely, yes. Ryan Grant, not the former running back, the receiver.
Yeah, they never played him. Why? See ya.
Yeah, he's out. And then Jason Spriggs.
I don't even know who's on the team anymore. So sure, see ya.
Agreed.
You skipped a guy. Skipped a guy.
Who did I skip?
Oh yeah, you did.
Who did I skip?
You skipped the guy who is our favorite guy.
Oh shoot, I did. I'm sorry. Whoops. I think I just already made up my mind about him.
Well, yeah, no kidding.
All right. Geronimo Allison's contract is up, Ben. What are you going to do without Geronimo Allison?
See you later.
Okay.
See you later. Drop the hands super slow. Geronimo. Bye-bye. Don't want him. Don't need him. Him and Balaga can take the next Uber out of town. I don't need him. I don't want to see him. Bye-bye.
I did forget about Geronimo. I think because I was blocking out that he even played this year. I really didn't want to see it. He's a nice guy, but man, he is a
nice guy.
He's not good enough at playing receiver in the realm of football. He's just not. He can't catch very well when you need him to. He's too slow. It takes a long time for him to start running. Like, receiver is not it's not a position where you can start slow and get up to speed. It just doesn't work in today's game. So, he made some great plays over his years and his time in Green Bay, but it's time to say goodbye. Okay, restricted free agent, Malcolm Johnson, fullback.
I don't even know what he is. I don't even know he was on the team.
27 years old, 0 snaps this last year. All right, here's some interesting ones. The exclusive rights free agents, which whenever the Packers sign these guys as free agents and they put them as exclusive rights, that was a very smart move because the first one is Alan Lazard.
You betcha. You match whatever anybody will give him.
Better get him back.
Bring him back.
And if you go receiver in the draft and you get some guy that's a dominant, dynamic number 2 guy, Lazard can be a very effective receiver over the middle and running shorter routes and all that stuff. Like, he can still be a really important piece to the offense for sure. Plus, he's a great
He
blocker.
could be like
great kid.
You remember Anquan Bolden? He could be like an Anquan Bolden kind of guy. He could have a ton of catches, a big guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? A possession receiver, and then the other guy, like Devontae on the other side. And then if you get a quick, twitchy kind of guy in the draft, like Lazard could be unstoppable at that third spot. He's got good hands. He's fast enough. He's big enough. Let's keep him.
All right, Tyler Lancaster on the D-line.
I like Tyler Lancaster. I say bring him back. He's a young guy. He's only like 20. How old is he? 20-something?
25.
We've proven that we need some rotation on the line. I mean, he's not a superstar. He's not a guy he's not a starter probably, but he's a guy who can give you depth and, rotation and all that kind of stuff. And he's smart and he makes plays and he'll take up a couple blockers every now and again. So they're going to need more than just him. They need a couple other guys somehow, but sign him back. He's good.
He's also better than your last 2 defensive line draft picks that are on the roster.
I still think Kiki could be good. It's just
okay.
He didn't play. I don't know. He didn't play.
I hope so. That's what I think it was Larry McCarron or somebody did a video not too long ago where they talked about Kiki and thought that he would be able to be showcased more next year and that he has the physical tools to be good. But as far as Adams goes, and not Devontae, Montravius Adams, as far as him, I'm totally written that guy off. I've seen nothing from him that shows me anything. I don't know why he's even sees the field, other than the fact he was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago. Okay, this guy's really interesting because he did some cool stuff. He made some mistakes, but he's only 23 years old, and that's Chandon Sullivan, who they've used at cornerback and safety.
Sign him back. This guy, I don't know how many times on 3rd downs and 4th downs at the end of the game, when the Packers had a lead and the defense had to make a stop, he is covering the slot guy and breaking up passes and making tackles and stopping them and stopping drives. Like, he was very, very good. And I don't know, he's no Micah Hyde, don't get me wrong, but he could be. He's kind of like that tweener kind of guy who's quick enough, smart enough, and with a little more experience, he could be really, really good. I actually like Chandon Sullivan a lot. They better sign him back.
I like him too, and he's pretty physical for a corner as well. And I didn't realize he was that young. He's only 23. Yeah, you need that guy back on your team. Jake Kumerow. What do you do with Jake Kumerow, who they still, again, even though he's shown flashes, used very sparingly this year? Now, just remember, you're going to have St. Brown back. He's still under contract. MVS is still there, whether you're going to use him or not. You're probably going to draft a receiver. You got Lazard. You got Adams. Assuming they get Lazard back.
Yeah, it's obvious to me they got to get Lazard back. It's obvious to me that they don't believe in Kumerow enough to play him and or use him. And to be honest, the last couple games he had a couple brain farts on blocking assignments as well as route running. So as much as it pains me to say, I would probably just let him go in free agency, somebody else. If nobody signs him and you can get him on the cheap, get him back in and let him compete with, St. Brown and MVS for like that number 4 spot behind Lazard and Devontae, and they better draft a guy with the number 1 or number 2 pick because they need to. They can have him compete for that number 4 spot again, but as much as I love the guy, I don't think he's in the Packers' plans. They need some kind of a speed, like shifty adjustment type. They need a Donald Driver. They need somebody who can just get open. It's 3rd and 5, and you need a guy to just get open. That's what they need. And Kumerow is not that guy. It hurts me, but I think Kumerow is probably not going to be back.
I hate to say it too, because I really love the guy. I love his story. I love everything about him, how hard he works. But I mean, the proof is here, right? And again, it goes back to the same thing with Vitale. Like, if you're not going to use the guy, then just let him go, see if he finds an opportunity somewhere else, because they struggled. They struggled at wide receiver all year long, right? And he still only saw the field how much? Like not nearly enough, according to us, right? I would have had him out there a lot earlier and a lot more snaps. So it's clear the Packers do not value his skill set or think that it fits in well enough with the other guys they have as receivers. And that's probably their biggest issue, is that he's probably too much like Lazard in terms of his speed, his size, his physicality, they need a little more variation at wide receiver, and they need some speed. And they thought MVS was going to be that guy. When he wasn't, it really threw their whole receiver room out of whack. But yeah, if Kumerow is not going to be used, what's the point of having him? I don't know. Last guy,
St. Brown will be back, and he's kind of the same type of guy as Kumerow and Lazard. So it's like you're gonna have three guys that are exactly the same guy, pretty much.
Yeah.
And Lazard and St. Brown are like 3 years younger than Kumerow is. So it's not worth it.
Yeah. And last guy on the exclusive rights free agents, Robert Tonyan.
This one shocked me. He only had 193 snaps. I know he got injured and all that, but it all comes down to Jimmy Graham. We all believe they need to cut ties with Jimmy Graham. It's not going to be as big of a cap hit in this third year. It needs to happen. He needs to go, and Tonyan needs to be there, because I think with Tonyan and Sternberger and bringing back Mercedes, they'll have a very good tight end group that they will not need to worry about anybody else trying to get somebody else in the draft or in free agency. And these guys have proven that they have the skills to play in this offense. And we know Tonyan can do it. We know he's good. He just needs the opportunity. And Jimmy Graham gone will give Tonyan and Sternberger the opportunity to be playmakers. So, yes, bring him back.
Which is a weird thing, right? I mean, I understand this happens in football with established guys or guys you paid a lot of money to or whatever. But with what we saw from Jimmy Graham, I don't understand why Tonyan and Sternberger didn't get more snaps and Graham got less snaps. It happened in a couple games, and then all of a sudden they'd be back to it, giving Graham more of the snaps again, and you hardly see those guys, and it was very confusing to me. It made me wonder if there was something else off the field with Tonyan that went on a couple times. And if not, then they're just being stubborn, or they're just trying to appease their guy that they invested a bunch of money in, or it's a pride thing by the GM. I mean, what is it? But either way, it's just dumb. It's not winning. It's not a winning move. It's not good for your football team to have a guy out there that's not as good as other guys that you have behind him on the roster. You play those guys, especially when you saw again what Jimmy Graham looked like early on in the season. You knew what you were going to get. A slow, depleted version of what he used to be, and a guy that doesn't have great hands. What was the point? Now, I will give him props for being a much improved blocker this year, and he actually did a pretty good job blocking most of the year. Graham did. He did.
Most of the year.
But he wasn't a threat in the passing game unless they just completely didn't cover him, like what happened in the NFC Championship game on the one play, where they counted his butt cheek down before he went over the goal line, which I disagree with as well. But I thought it was pretty simultaneous. I don't know how they reversed that call, but okay. Anyway, you knew that's what you were going to get from Jimmy Graham. So Robert Tonyan and Jay Sternberger, once he got back from IR, needed to be on the field. That's it.
That's it.
Sign him back. He knows he's been on the team. He knows the players. He knows the offense. Guys like him. He's shown to have, he's dynamic enough. He's got enough speed. He's got great hands. Like, give me that guy. Give me Bob Tonyan in the game. And with Lewis in there guiding those two young guys, that is a great combination. That's a wonderful group of tight ends. Okay, you let those young guys come along. Lewis is on the team for at least one more year. If you can get him back, then those two guys are ready to take over after this year and really run with it, and they would be dynamic. Okay, so I think we kind of agreed on almost everything. Dang it. That didn't work.
Mostly.
Yeah.
That's all right. We're going to be wrong about all of them, probably.
They'll sign
back Balaga.
Balaga's the first move.
Back,
Geronimo.
They'll sign back Fackrell, Redmond, Goodson.
Oh,
They'll let Lazard go, Kumerow go, so Sullivan will be gone. Ibrahim Campbell will be gone. Tyler Irvin will be gone.
Valdir
will be gone, yeah.
Oh, my God. That would be the worst.
Look, and then Balaga will get hurt in week 1 next year, and they'll have to move Billy Turner over to tackle.
Oh, God. That'll be painful.
Okay. That'll all be bad.
You raise some serious concerns because I mean, you bring up a good point because I have serious concerns about Brian Gutekunst, and I wanted to say this was what I was itching to do an episode last week after I heard what Gutekunst said about Rashawn Gary in as he was doing a recap on the season, he was being questioned because one of the reporters said to him, well, and they were talking about some other things and productions of certain guys and how certain guys did on the season. And they said, well, and, and Gary, you see a pick like that in a first round pick and he didn't have much of an impact and all this. And then Gutekunst interrupts the guy, not just waits for him to finish his question and disagrees, but Gutekunst is a pretty cool customer and he's pretty savvy and tries to always make everything nice and happy and all this stuff, right? And be very agreeable. And he interrupts the guy and then says, well, I disagree with that. I disagree with that completely. I thought he was very impactful. And I, at that point, wondered, what are you talking about? Were you watching the same player that I watched? Here's a guy, Rashawn Gary, that was drafted 12th overall and barely saw the field. Barely saw the field. And then he goes to explain, well, he had two great guys in front of him and all this stuff, but he's the number 12 pick. Like, I don't understand how you can say when he didn't hardly see the field and he had 2 sacks and 21 tackles on the whole season. One of the sacks against Joe Flacco, by the way, and the Broncos offensive line, which was terrible. And the other one, I think, was also a bad offensive line. It was. I think it was against the Seahawks.
Well, I got some numbers here for you.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, since you're gonna, because I knew you were gonna talk about Gary, because I know that you're mad about it. So am I.
Well, I'm seriously questioning Brian Gutekunst's ability to be rational here. Like I think he's too tied to his pick that he made, and there's too much pride there. And if that's the way you GM, that's the way you have bad drafts and you make a bad roster. So anyway, go ahead.
Do you know how many snaps Rashawn Gary played this year?
I do not. I just know he had 21 tackles and only 2 sacks.
Okay. I'm going to tell you this. Zadarius Smith played 872 snaps.
Jeez.
So how many snaps do you think Gary played?
I'll go with 132.
Yeah, it was twice that.
Oh, okay.
He played 244 snaps.
I didn't notice him much.
That's right. That's the thing I'm going to say. He played 244 snaps. It seemed like he played 44 snaps. He played 24% of the defensive snaps this season. So Darius Smith played 872, which was 84% of the snaps this season. Okay? Which is about roughly 3 times the amount. A little bit more than 3 times the amount. Or 1/3 of the snaps Gary got to Zadarius Smith. Okay.
Yep.
So in those 1/3 of the snaps, they were mostly on third downs or pressure situations, right? Because he was in there as like another guy. There was only very few times where he was in there to spell Smith. He was mostly in there as like a pass rusher, right?
Yep.
So out of those 244 snaps, he had 2 hurries.
Wow.
Now, Zadarius Smith had 13 hurries, so it's not like he had a whole bunch more. But still, Zadarius Smith had 2/3 more snaps, but he had 6 times the amount of hurries. Gary had 2 sacks. Zadarius Smith had 13.5 sacks, which is another 6 times the amount or more, almost 7 times the amount of sacks Gary had. Gary had 1 quarterback knockdown out of his 244 snaps, whereas Darius Smith had 22 quarterback knockdowns. That's 22 times the amount of knockdowns that Gary had. And then here's the big one: quarterback pressures.
Oh, that's one, yeah.
Out of 244 snaps, Rashawn Gary had 5 quarterback pressures.
Oh my gosh! Oh,
5.
Because Zadarius led the league, right?
Zadarius Smith had 50 quarterback pressures.
Whew.
Out of 872 snaps, which is roughly a little more than 10% of his snaps, which is pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, maybe I'm wrong on that. It's less than 10%. It's
like 7 or 8%, yeah.
Yeah. But Gary's 5 out of 244 is like 2.3% or something. So,
and
I don't know, man.
And Zadarius Smith was not the number 12 pick in the draft either.
No, he was not. When he drafted, he was like a what, 3rd-round pick or something, 4th-round pick? I don't even know.
Yeah, he was 4th or 5th, I think.
The only reason why I'm saying this is Zadarius Smith was signed to be an impact player. Okay, so that's why I'm comparing these stats here. And I know the opportunities were not as much, but 244 snaps is a lot of snaps to make plays, and he made no plays.
Did he have
no
any
plays?
Did he have any tackles for a loss? That was one thing I didn't, other than the sacks. I don't think so.
I don't know. I didn't see that. I was just looking at the pressures and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, because
but it was one of those things.
I wanted to say one thing.
I was surprised.
I want to just point this out, and then you can finish your other point. But the one thing about Gary's 21 tackles is that in my memory, most of those tackles were like 5 or more yards downfield where he was trailing a play and then getting in on the tackle. It wasn't like, hey, I stuffed the run here and stuffed this guy and tackled him. No, he was getting blocked, and then he came off his block as the running back was past him and then coming down and helping to make a tackle. That's what most of them were. So that's also not impactful play from a guy on the defensive line. Go on.
But I'll say this too. Savage wasn't much of an impact player after week 4.
No, he was not. That was disappointing.
So, I mean, neither of these first-round picks have done what they should have, what we expected them to do. But you also said this. There were a lot of first-round picks this last season that really didn't make plays. I mean, think of all the tight ends. Everybody was talking about the tight ends coming out. The guy that went to Detroit, the guy who went to Denver, the guy Irv Smith who went to the Vikings. None of those guys really had huge years. Not even the guy from the guy who went to Detroit from Iowa that the Packers wanted.
Yep.
He didn't really do anything either. So I mean,
I think Sternberger looked better than him, but yeah, I mean,
really.
It's
so
agreed.
I don't know. It seems like this was definitely a down year on the draft, and it's a shame because the Packers usually don't get to go that high in the draft, and the one year they did, they got pretty much nothing worth to come out of it. So that's why I said let Fackrell go, get Gary even more chances, and see if he can turn it around this next year. Let's see him get some off-season training, get maybe a little bit more strength, maybe a little bit more lean to make him a little bit more explosive.
The reason everybody loved him was because of his, all of his measurables, his tests. He bench pressed a lot. He was really fast. He jumped high, all that stuff, right? But it doesn't always translate to being a good football player. And to me, it just seems like he's maybe not that good of a football player. And if that's what you got with the number 12 pick, you picked a guy who's a good athlete but not a good football player, that is going to be a problem. But you're right. You have to see what he can do. You have to hope that you can train him into a good football player, because second year, he has to, at bare minimum, be your next rotational guy who can spell both sides of the, both Smiths, I should say, and then also be in there like he was with those guys at times and increase that snap count to like 400 or 500. That's who he has to be, bare minimum, because he was the number 12 pick in the draft. And if he gets all that and there's no production, then you see you've got a big problem. That's one of the things I'm looking at, when you were talking about signing these guys back or not and all that stuff. And when we finally saw the Packers get into free agency and do some, sign some bigger free agents this last year, was at least with those guys, the draft is so unpredictable. And yes, free agency can be as well, but at least you have a track record of the player in the National Football League. And so I would put my bets on free agency a little bit more, being a little more stable than the draft is. And when we do our draft analysis, we're going to show you that. Thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to do that on the YouTube channel. I'm working on the audio versions. I don't know what happened. It not going on to iTunes and Google Play from where I've been posting it. So I'll work on that. Otherwise, you can download the Podbean app. Podbean, our host site, does have its own app that will work just like iTunes and Google Play, where you can actually download the podcast and take it with you versus having to have an internet connection if you want to do it that way. So those are the ways you can catch us, Hafeman Brothers. For Brother Ben, thanks for joining me again, bro. And thank you, all of you, for watching and listening to Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers.